Hi, welcome back to lfpress.com and the Political Beat. I'm Pat Maloney. I cover City Hall for the London Free Press and lfpress.com. And Chip Martin, my esteemed co-host, is on vacation this week to the great relief of everyone in the newsroom. And with me in his stead is business reporter and all-around bon vivant Norm De Bono. Norm, welcome to the show. Thanks for filling in, and thanks for wearing a suit jacket.
It's my pleasure. It's big shoes to fill. I mean, Chip is a power and a presence in the newsroom, so I'll do my best.
But I can see that you you brought extensive notes with you. Norm's notes, notepad just says it just says political beat, and it's under.
If I'm sitting at a table and not writing something down, I get nervous.
I just think it's hilarious. Like, maybe it's not that funny, but it's pretty funny to me. So, but we have lots of great stuff to talk about.
There's
it's a beautiful day. It's sunny.
Yeah.
Chip's on vacation, which is great. We got Travis Konechny on the front page. I got the pink tie. You're with us, so we got lots of good stuff. And unfortunately, not all the news is always great. And so let's talk about something that's a little gloomier than the forecast, and that is, I believe it'll be on Friday that the latest job numbers will come out.
Right.
As we both know, 9.9% is where we sit now, which is astonishingly high.
Yeah,
where does that rank us in cities in Canada?
Well, it's the largest big city number. That is, of all the major cities in Canada, 9.9% is the highest rate. Okay. And I think we are, second overall in the country. So,
would you know who's number one? Or no?
I didn't know, but anyway, I forget because I did the story a month ago. But we're all watching with great interest for Friday morning to see what happens. Hopefully, it'll come down. But I don't think there's a lot of confidence that if it does come down, it's going to come down very much. I mean, there are serious problems with the economic situation in London, with job creation, with employment. As we've discussed before, there is about we've lost 16,000 manufacturing jobs in London over the past 10 years. And what's interesting is while other sectors of the local economy have remained pretty stable, nothing else has picked up that slack. So other communities like Kitchener also lost manufacturing jobs, Hamilton lost steel jobs, but those other cities have seen other sectors rise to replace those jobs. We've lost 16,000 jobs and nothing has
Nothing's picked up the slack.
Yeah, so that's why we're at 9.9%. It takes about 5,000 jobs to move the unemployment number by 1%.
So to go from 9.9 to 8.9, we'd need 5,000 jobs.
We need to gain 5,000. So the fact that we've lost 16,000 is about 3 percentage points, and that's just about where we're at. Right? So it would be 6.9%, in line with a Kitchener and with a Hamilton if we had something else.
So here's what I'm wondering. I mean, what's the difference between really bad and really, really bad? Well, maybe not much, but when you're at 9.9%, if you go up one tick to 10%, right, is there a psychological barrier there that all of a sudden, oh my goodness, we're one of the 10%ers?
I think it is, and actually I think we're already there. I think people are sort of resigned to the fact that we have this large number, and it might as well be 10%. I think one thing that's really concerning people I talk to is there doesn't really seem to be a strategy in place to deal with it.
A strategy from the municipal government.
We have a few different areas where we can attack unemployment from. The city, certainly, the London Economic Development Corporation. You can point to provincial and federal governments who like to weigh in on it, but realistically they can't do much. Really, it's a municipal issue. And I think in terms of attracting new industry here and growing the ones we have, we're waiting for the U.S. turnaround. We're hoping that some investments pay off, but there's not really a retention and a creation strategy that's really concrete and aggressive and doing a lot. I don't see a lot of us out selling the city, trying to woo industry here, and I think that's where we're really falling down.
So that falls to the feet of the LADC, the mayor? Where does that fall?
All of the above. I mean, I think that, the LADC, I think they have to face some tough questions. I don't know if they have, and I think that's part of the problem. I mean, I don't see a lot of concern about this issue.
Or urgency, maybe.
Yeah, or urgency, thank you, from people other than people who are unemployed. I mean, when you go down and spend a morning at the London Unemployment Help Center, men and women there are really worried. They're concerned. God. They are getting nothing, and these are not people off the street. These are educated people who have lost their jobs.
Through no fault of their own.
Yeah. They're qualified, they have experience, they have an education, they can't find work. But if you talk to people at City Hall and the LADC, I think what you're hearing is, don't worry, everything's fine, we have a plan. And that disconnect from the city, from the citizens, and from those in need is a real concern to me. And frankly, it angers me, and it's a concern.
And this conversation really drives home how fortunate you are if you do have a job.
Yeah.
And some people take that for granted, right? Unfortunately, even
Absolutely.
given the context of that, we all know how high the numbers are. Some people take it for granted. Okay.
But, you know, I'd hate to see a press release from City Hall that says 90% employed, though.
They would never do that. 90% employment rate, that would never happen.
No, they wouldn't be so disconnected from those that need to actually put out that press release.
That's an outrageous idea. Let's go on to another issue that was written about on the front page today.
Right.
Beautifully written, in my opinion,
Yeah.
on the potential sale of London Hydro. Now, again,
I couldn't read the story because I couldn't get past the stunning photograph of the reporter on the front
Oh,
page.
the journalist who wrote
He's
it?
a handsome man.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But so, not to jump the gun, we're not talking about that council's like full bore going to sell London Hydro, but the conversation is starting again. Is this an option? Maybe merging, which the province has encouraged utilities to merge. So, you know, London Hydro merges with Woodstock and Ingersoll and whoever else. Maybe selling it, maybe doing nothing, but the sale conversation I think is interesting because Norfolk Hydro recently sold for $97 million. That's not far from here, which I think was a lot more than people would have expected it to sell for. So if London Hydro, which they say is worth about $300 million, was to sell for, or was to get an offer considerably higher than $300 million, are you insane to not look at that, if that's a possibility?
I think it's a conversation that has to happen on a lot of levels. You know, let me talk about it from a moment from the business community, in the sense that I think a lot of industry has been concerned about coming to Ontario because of hydro rates, because of energy rates. So I think there is energy infrastructure plays a real role in economic development, and a serious one.
I can see that, yeah.
But so we have to ensure that the service is there, that the employment remains the same, and that wages and support for the workers are still there if there is a sale. But I think as a city, you have to at least entertain the idea and go down that path. This is a complex issue, and I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about it, but $300 million, you know, we are one of, I mean, do we not have one of the highest debts of any city in Ontario right now?
Well, it's certainly high, yeah. It's in the order of about $300 million, yeah.
So, I mean, you know, I know that recently other communities have looked at London. Like the Windsor Star had a story recently that said, you know, the City Finance Department in Windsor doesn't want to become another London in terms of accruing too much debt.
We're sort of like the poster child of what not to do. We're a good example of a bad example in terms of accruing debt as a city.
That's a real concern. But I think even more so, you know, if we do end up going down this path of selling this to pay down debt, we have to ensure that we have changed our business practices to not accrue that debt in the future.
Right. I think part of the concern too is all of a sudden you're going to give a theoretical $300 million payday to a bunch of city councillors who on their best day, many of them have not endeared themselves to London or earned the faith of Londoners. I think that's fair to say.
Absolutely.
But especially going into an election year where you've got, you know, you might have like a bit of, oh, let's have a party, right? Let's have an election year party, and the money gets wasted. I'm not sure that would happen, but that's a fear, and I think it's good that people are raising that issue, raising that question before the conversation even rolls out. So that's going to start on Monday. I think it's an interesting issue.
I would be concerned that they would use that money to pay for a performing arts center or to develop lands along 401, 402, and that would still have, of course, debt, and would still have to pay interest on debt of $70 million a year. The interest alone we pay on that debt. If we do pay down debt, and that's another point, we free up $70 million a year that we're now paying on our interest rates for the city.
Yeah.
That's a huge factor.
The only thing, the idea of selling London Hydro to build or create a money-making asset, to me is a moot point, because London Hydro is a money-making asset. The city got $7.2 million last year as the sole shareholder. So that's a 1.5%. That's the equivalent of 1.5% on the tax hike. So that's a lot of moolah. Anyway, you know, speaking of, I don't know, power and all that stuff, wind energy, and we don't often talk about it here because we live in the city and we don't really think about it, and that's unfortunate because we have a lot of readers, and I know a lot of people at lfpress.com don't live in the city. It's a major issue in the rural communities, and it continues to be.
It's a major issue in the urban center too, because what's happened in London is the fact that we have, because of our Green Energy Act, and the wind strategy developed by the provincial government, we have the prospect of a Samsung plant locating here. That's 300 jobs.
That is very true, yes.
And you know, we've seen, because of their deal with Samsung, which came about because of the Green Energy Act, Samsung, which is of course a multinational corporation out of Korea, which is, you know, an industrial giant, has invested $7 billion in the province of Ontario. Now let's stop and think about that for a second. I mean, when was the last time an independent company with the weight of a Samsung invested $7 billion in a province?
But wasn't there, are there significant subsidies attached to that?
There's a subsidy when it comes to the wind to the actual energy that they're paying through the feed-in tariff program.
Right.
Absolutely, they need an incentive to invest that kind of money. But remember, I mean, we rolled out the red carpet for Toyota quite rightly, investing $1.1 billion.
And now you've got
to open
7
up a
times
plant.
that. Yeah.
So now we have 7 times that. This is a significant investment. They're opening 4. They've opened 3, and they're slated to open a 4th manufacturing plant here, employing more than 1,000 Ontarians.
But the opposition among people that have to live around these things remains pretty vocal.
I think it's a very passionate opposition to it, and if we can talk about that for a minute, I mean, there have been 17 reports written on the issue of wind and health, and every report, and these are global, this isn't just Ontario or Canada, we've had some here, US, Europe as well. Everyone has been absolutely solid in their findings. There are no
that may
ill
be
health
that may be
benefits
so,
from
but
it.
you can give me all the reports you want. If somebody says I got vertigo, I don't feel good when I'm around this wind turbine,
Right.
that's like a crime statistic. Hey, London's safe. Well, if you're walking down the street at 3 in the morning and you got a guy behind you, all the crime statistics in the world aren't going to make you feel safe.
But
It's a
if
feeling.
But I mean, I think those medical reports would suggest that there's a nuisance factor, that people are sort of feeding into the paranoia that they're feeling because of the wind turbine situation.
You're going to get a lot of angry emails, norman.debono@sunmedia.ca.
Is that a reason to stop not only something that is weaning us off coal, which has a far more detrimental negative health effect than wind energy ever could, but also that is stimulating our manufacturing economy, that is dragging us into the 21st century instead of keeping us back in the era of coal power? Remember, in the southern U.S., there's an aggressive strategy to bring wind turbines and solar panels to that region. If we don't follow that, we will be left behind.
That may be so. That may be so. But we have a story this week, and you can read it at lfpress.com, where NextEra, this wind energy firm, is suing a single person for maligning them, criticizing them on her blog. To me, that is outrageous. The people who are critical of this have to be allowed to speak out about it, and you can't have a libel chill come down.
I think people can speak out about it. We do have the freedom of that, and I don't think any industry would begrudge anyone's sort of perspective to question or criticize. But when you start taking the name of the company and turning it into something that is malicious and that is misleading, I think any company, regardless of its sector, has to protect its identity and its image and its brand.
From a single person's blog.
Absolutely, and I understand that.
No, the message is clear. Don't mess with us. That's the message.
Yeah. And I think to an extent, questioning, criticizing is fine, but when you take an image or a name and you turn it into something that's very negative, we don't want to even mention what it
Sure,
does
whatever,
here,
that's fine.
Then they're going to move to correct brand. And that would happen if it's any corporation in any sector.
Yeah.
Divorce wind from that, and I think most people would agree with that because wind is such a passionate issue in our community.
I just don't like
people have
big
less
companies
perspective on
suing
it.
single person, but whatever. It's an interesting story, and you should look it up.
I know.
If you
I don't
Google,
like
I guess Google lfpress.com and the name Esther Reitman with a W, and you'll find the story that we had this week, which she's the one being sued. And it's an interesting tale, whatever side of the issue you fall down. Okay, Norm, anything else in your notes you want to cover off before we sign off?
No, they're pretty extensive.
We're done. Okay.
No, I just want to say before we sign off, what a privilege it is to be here with you.
Yeah.
And,
Okay. Listen,
I
thanks
really
for joining
appreciate
us, and we'll see you next time at lfpress.com.
Thank you.